Okay, terrific. All right, thanks everybody for joining. It's 1 Eastern here, so we're going to start with another Gimmal education session. My name is Marcia Shields from our customer success team, and if you have not attended a session before, the goal for these is to assist you in addressing your business challenges and demonstrate how our Gimmal software can help. We aim to enhance your expertise so you can best leverage your Gimmal software. As mentioned, as you heard, we are recording this session and it will be shared after the event. It is also posted to our YouTube Gimmal page. Tim Butler is with me today. He will be your subject matter expert and is going to be demonstrating with our Gimmal Physical product. Tim's going to be showing you how to enhance your searching capabilities with SQL operators. Format is the same. We go for about 15 minutes or so of demonstration, followed by 10 minutes for your questions. Feel free to post any questions you have while Tim talks in the Q&A section of your Zoom bar, and we'll address those after the demo. Tim, that's all I have. I'm going to pass it over to you now.
All right. Thank you, Marcia. Let me pop a couple screens open here. And yeah, as Marcia said, guys, today we're going to be looking at the searching functionality within Gimmal Physical, and specifically the use of what we have called SQL or SQL operators. And I will tell you, we kind of just took a little bit of a shortcut there. In truth, SQL operators, technically speaking, encompass a much broader set of functionality that you would use directly within a database. But what we're really saying by the SQL operators here is we're talking about more specifically what are known as SQL comparison operators, and I'll show you those examples in just a little bit, and then also a subset within that called logical operators. Before we get into those details, we do have a little poll here to present to you, if you guys wouldn't mind taking just a moment and responding to that 2-question poll that you see in front of you. And give you just another couple seconds there. And Marcia, are we going to be showing the results of that poll? I don't know.
I will mention those after, for sure.
Okay.
Great idea.
We'll save it for the end. But thank you for those of you who quickly responded to that poll. So guys, within, as you saw via the poll there, within Gimmal Physical, there's actually 7 different ways of searching. And I know most of you are aware of all these, but very quickly, the options that are available to you at the top of each tab, there's the most commonly used option known as the quick search. And in a real typical environment, you'd see much more fields here. I've simplified things for the purposes of our tutorial today, but that is option 1. Option 2 for searching is under that button called switch, where it switches to a single field, more of a Google-like full text search. That is option 2. Options 3, detailed, option 4, keyword and duplicate, not even really going to get into those today. Those are other ways of searching. We will touch briefly upon option 6, which is known as advanced query. All 6 of these search option guys are all specific to the tab you are on. For those of you not aware, there is a 7th option found under admin known as global search. And it is the one place you can go to search across multiple tabs simultaneously. Again, we won't be covering that today, but just by way of context, wanted to make you aware of those 7 different search options. Now, specific to SQL operators, guys, it's important for you to know that the global search that I just showed you there, as well as the full text search and what's known as the keyword search, they don't support the use of the SQL operators. Rather, the quick search, where we'll spend most of our time here today, the detailed search, the advanced query, and the duplicate, the 4 of those are the ones that do support the use of the SQL operators. For advanced query and duplicate, you actually use those via drop-down menus. Here on the quick search and in detailed search, you actually need to type them in. Now, because for a lot of reasons, most of our users, most of the time, we're using the quick search. That's where we'll spend the remainder of our time. One other quick caveat you need to be aware of up front is found under preferences, which affects your searching behavior. So under preferences, under application, you're going to see a preference called wildcard behavior. And like all of the preferences within Gimmal Physical, you can choose from various scopes. If yours is set to system, it means whatever value you put here will apply to everyone, regardless of who logs in. On the other end of the spectrum is the user scope, which means each user can set this preference to their own liking. There is one in between called role, which allows you to set it at the role level, and then you can ignore the workstation. Doesn't really apply to this particular preference. But for now, I wanted you to be aware for the tutorial today, my preference is set to auto beginning and ending. And very quickly, for those of you not familiar with that, what does that mean? I'll give you a quick example here. I will tell you, you'll see I've kind of seeded the demo today with a bunch of data. We're going to take a look at Kathy Stevens here today. Over on the right, I've kind of kept this here for reference because you're going to see the results change based upon the different searches I perform. This is a quick reference for you to know all of the different Kathy Stevens records that are actually in here so you can quickly compare the preferences there. But what I wanted to show you right up front is if I do this first search here, if I just simply type in Kathy into the description field, my result set is what you see here. All of you, I think, are aware of this, but let's just highlight it now. Anytime you hover over the rollover, it tells you what you just did. And what I want to point out right here is it's saying find all boxes where description contains, and that's the key word because my preference is actually wrapping my search automatically for me. It winds up doing the exact same thing as if I had searched it this way. If I had actually put a wildcard, the percentage sign, both before and after my search phrase, I'll get the same result set because my preference is set to actually auto supply these values for me, so I don't need to do that. So wanted to kind of set the stage for you there, how my particular application is set up. All right, now with that, let's jump in and do some searching. Easiest search of all, as you are all aware, don't use any logic whatsoever, SQL operators included. You simply click on the blue search button, it returns everything. Want to mention a couple of key words, guys, before we get into specifically the SQL operators themselves that can be very handy. So if you'll notice here, we always tell you the number of results. In my case, 753. What I'm going to do here, though, let's jump. And this is just my browser memory, by the way. Your browser may behave slightly different. Nothing happening here with Gimmal Physical, just using browser memory. One of the keywords that can be super useful is this keyword of is not null. What we use this for is it's your way to say search by blank, right? There's no really good way to search by a blank character. So you need to use this keyword. This either is not null or is null. Is not null, what we're saying is actually show me all of the, in this case, boxes where description has any value whatsoever. That is, it's not blank. And you'll notice I now have 35 boxes in my result set. As you would suspect, right, if you remove that not portion, you can also search by is null. And in this case, you're saying, hey, show me all the boxes where the description is blank. So a couple of keyword uses there for searching by blanks or not blanks. All right, let's go back to is not null and just focus on where we're going to spend most of the rest of our tutorial here. It is not null. I've currently got about 39 records in here, or I've got exactly 39 records that have some kind of value in the description field. So let's say the use case is this, guys. Whatever your job happens to be, someone says to you, hey, I need everything we have about Kathy Stevens. All right, you're like, okay, let me go find what we got. So intuitively, you might do something like this. You might say, hey, show me everything we have about Kathy Stevens. And you can type that all out. But when I do that particular search, I'm only finding one record. Now, technically speaking, this is accurate. It's returning the boxes where the description actually has that exact string of characters, Kathy Stevens, in there. But we know, based upon what I showed you a moment ago, what you see here on the right is we probably have a lot more about Kathy Stevens. It just so happens that various people have typed in those records in different ways. So let's back it off a little bit. Let's say, okay, let's just try Kathy instead of first name and last name. This will get us a little bit closer. So notice now we're getting 8 boxes, and wherever Kathy appears, we're not limited now to that Stevens, because notice it's spelled differently depending upon who typed it in. It does have the downside. If you look down here far enough, we're going to get other Kathys as well, right? For example, you see a Kathy Thompson down here at the end. But we're getting closer to the result set that we really want. Next key point I want to call out, and you're seeing it already in the browser memory here, is the use of the keyword or. If you want to be technical here, this is part of what's known as Boolean logic. So I can do this kind of thing. I can say, hey, Gimmal Physical, I realize that some people were spelling it differently. So I can say, let's do Kathy or Kathy with a K. So that keyword or now, rather than just bringing back 8, we're now up to 11 boxes via that keyword. Just so you're aware, guys, you can actually string as many of these or characters together as you would like. And I'm cheating a little bit here because I make sure I get some hits. I can do this, or I can do, and I think I have one more. Yeah, I typed it in this way. So I've got 4 different variations of Kathy. The main point, though, guys, whatever the specific example happens to be, you can string as many of these ors together as you would like. And again, every time you do a search here, this rollover for current search, if you hover over it, it tells you what it was, the search you just performed. In this case, 4 variations of Kathy. Now I'm up to the 13 boxes, probably close to the 13 boxes that I really need to find. Now, you might say, okay, Tim, that's cool, but I could be clever. And the answer is absolutely, you can be as clever as you want, and the details will always vary depending upon the exact example. So for example, all those variations of Kathy, right, they all have an ATH in them, right? So you could do that. You could do something like, well, I don't know to type in all the variations of Kathy. Let me just try ATH. That works fine, sort of. It is going to bring back all the variations of Kathy, but if you look down here just a ways, you'll notice I kind of set this up ahead of time. I put another description in there with a different ATH, a box about Nigel Rathbone. Has nothing to do with Kathy whatsoever. So this can be helpful, but often it can be just a little bit too broad for you. So the point we're focusing right now is the use of the keyword or that in certain situations can be helpful to you. In addition, within the realms of Boolean logic, guys, in addition to the keyword or, there is also the keyword and. So let's do a couple examples with it. Let's come back to Kathy. This time I'm going to use the keyword and I'm going to say, hey, you know, really, I only want the boxes, or I want the boxes for both Kathy and John. When I do that search, notice the result set is only finding 2, because what we're really saying here is the description now needs to contain both CATHY and JOHN. If you wanted, this is another example of the or, if you wanted boxes that had Kathy or John, well, you do have to type it right, not row. Let's type in or. That's going to broaden the search. So this is saying if it shows up, whether it's Kathy or John, rather than both of them having to be a part of the search. Similar to the or Boolean operator, guys, you can actually string as many ands together. But in the end, when you string a lot of ors together, that will, generally speaking, broaden your search results. When you string a lot of ands together, generally speaking, that will limit your results. Now, that's all kind of straightforward, at least I think so. Let's just take it one level deeper here, guys, and talk about nested logic. So apologies up front for bringing back probably some bad memories from Algebra 2 for some of you. But you can also do this kind of thing, guys. And I'm going to grab, we'll grab, I guess we'll go with this guy. All right, you can use parenthesis. You can say, hey, I'm looking for boxes, and I want it to be the case, the boxes I search for, if the description contains Kathy, or the description contains both Kathy and John. So notice the Kathy and John is wrapped in its own set of parentheses. So we're evaluating that logic first because it's innermost in terms of the parentheses. And then we're also tacking onto it the or portion of KATHY. So you can utilize that nested logic that way. I'm going to grab my cheat sheet here. I'm not going to type this whole next one out. I'm going to copy and paste. Let me grab that. So there's my result set from that there. Let's come back over here. Let's blank that out. And here's yet another one, a big long one, right? So I'm going to go back leftmost here. Oh, they have extra characters. Let me get rid of that from my paste. I can do this kind of thing, right? And again, it's a combination of ors and ands and nested logic. Guys, you can really get very complex here, and some of you might dream up some really powerful queries. All of it is supported here within the quick search. This particular example, I'm saying, hey, show me all the boxes where the description contains Kathy, C-A-T-H-Y, any of the variations of Kathy. As I scroll over here a wise, I'm saying besides all that, I also want it to be the case, and now introducing a new character here to you, that less than, greater than is the mathematical way. It's our way of saying not. And I'm saying, hey, and it's not of, I don't want Johns to appear, and I don't want J-O-N in either case. So it's a combination now of ors and ands, nested logic, and utilizing this new not character, I can perform that search as well. And again, the results will change, will alter exactly depending upon how you structure your query. In this particular example, notice I'm getting lots of Kathys, but I'm not getting any Kathys where there was a J-O-H-N or a J-O-N itself. Now, one more quick sort of a tidbit I want to give you in terms, and by the way, I think you can see, you can come up with a gazillion examples here using ors or ands, the not equal to character, the use of wildcards, the use of nesting logic via parenthesis. These are just quick examples to show you the idea. One more technique I want to show you that a lot of folks are just not aware of, and it involves the use of a placeholder character. So you can do this kind of thing. The underscore in the application, I can say, hey, show me all the boxes where it's just all I'm really wanting here is C underscore underscore, two placeholders, HY. This would return results if I had a description where the entire description was just Kathy. I don't have any like that, so I'm going to tack on the last name here. I'm pretty sure I have one of these guys just to illustrate the point. So when you tack on that extra word at the end, indeed, this works. So there may be, doesn't happen a lot, but sometimes rather than using a wildcard, if you just want to replace some interior characters with a placeholder, meaning any character would be fine, whether it's AT or ZX or anything else, this also is a technique you can use as a placeholder for searching in that regard. Now, everything we focused on here, guys, is all related to the quick search, and everything I just showed you here works equally well on the detailed search page. As I mentioned up front, you can also use these SQL operators, comparison operators, Boolean logic, and all that in the advanced query. So just very quickly here, guys, I'm going to jump into the advanced query in this particular application, and I pre-built one of these ahead of time just to save a little bit of time in terms of, because the advanced queries can be quite time consuming to actually construct in the application. Come on, application, you can do it. Man, a few seconds is like an eternity sometimes.
You're rated 10.
I know. I don't know what I did. I don't know why it's so slow. All right, let me jump in here. Here's my advanced query I built. I called it whatever I wanted, Kathy with or. You'll notice here in the end, this advanced query is going to return the same results that one of our queries returned in the quick search. And I'll just put it this way, guys. Generally speaking, I encourage you never come to advanced query because it's complicated, except under certain situations or for certain use cases. One of them is, you'll notice in advanced query, yes, you can build the same type logic that I did previously, but what you can do here in advanced query is you can add multiple levels of sort. Back in the quick search, you can only sort one column at a time. Advanced query, you can sort by multiple columns. If it's a query that you're going to be running multiple times, once a day, once a week, once a month, that's another good reason to come into advanced query, because like I did, you can name it and save it for reuse across the whole system. You can save it personally or into your own security profile library. And then for those of you that are really on the technical side, if you actually want to see the underlying SQL we're about to run, that would be yet one more potential reason to come in and use advanced query. One other potential one is there is a nice operator here called in and conversely not in. Special use cases there. That would be the last reason really probably to come in and use advanced query. But on the whole, guys, almost all the time, you can do everything you need to do directly from the quick search itself. Now, one more quick example I want to show you here. And come back here, let's clear this. Let's just go with the is not nulls. All of that we showed you. Oh, come here, we can do that. Is not null, search by that. All the examples we showed you there were subsets of the broader spectrum or umbrella of SQL operations. I'm going to scroll past all of our Kathys here and jump you down. I created a bunch of these, and you can see if you're really paying attention, they're alphabetical. So I did this so I could show you the use of a couple of other comparison operators. You can do this kind of thing. You can say, hey, show me all of the boxes where the description is greater than BUTLER. Now, I'm still going to get a bunch of these Kathys in here, so I'm going to scroll past the Kathys in this case. But really what I'm trying to illustrate here, get past the Kathys, go down to the ones that are actually alphabetical. You can see my Abbott and my Butler are not here. I'm starting at Connors. You can also, of course, do a less than. So I can say, hey, show me all of the boxes where it's less than the word Miller. Now, this particular field description is alphanumeric, so it is sorting alphanumerically. If you have fields in your application defined as numeric fields, it will work numerically. And then it also works with date fields. You can say less than a particular year or less than a particular specific date if you want to. One more quick variation. We did greater than, we did less than. You can, you can do a less than or equal to and a greater than or equal, very similar. Last point I'll mention, guys, before we jump into a question and answer period here, is that we got very detailed here in the tutorial specific to the SQL operators. If you're not aware, let me make you aware. We have recently posted to the Gimmal website. Go out to the gimmal.com, look at the documentation section for Gimmal Physical. We've actually posted a number of really nice tutorials. One of them is a tutorial about searching. It's a broader spectrum than what I covered here today, but a really nice place to start either for you or your colleagues or your staff that just want to know the basics of how to search. All right, I'm checking my cheat sheet here, guys. I think we covered what we could in the time that we have, and yes, we did. Let's open the floor, and Marcia, I'll turn it over to you to field questions.
Good job, Tim. A lot of information. We do have a couple questions that came on earlier, but real quick, the poll I thought it was interesting. First question was, have you ever used duplicate search? Only 20% yes, 80% no.
Not surprised. Thank you, though. For those of you that used it, we would love, if you wouldn't mind, sending us an example or the reason why you used it. That would be great.
The second question was, have you ever used global search? There were 40% of yeses and 60% of no's.
Okay, good. That's about what I would have expected, guys. Same thing, if you wouldn't mind, if you would tell us the use cases when you use global search, that would be helpful to us.
Yeah. So on to the question, Joe. So we had a couple, Tim. If you can leave if it would be helpful, I'll read the questions, and if you need to bump around in the product, that's up to you. First one was, is there any presentation or demo or manual on how Gimmal Physical works, starting from importing the existing product inventory?
Great question. And hey, a nice answer. At least I think you're going to like it. The tutorials I just mentioned, guys, it basically is set up in logical fashion. I think there's 11 tutorials in the showcase out there. And one of the first ones gives you instructions on how to import data. So start there. If that doesn't get you the answers you need, reach out to Marcia and she can get you additional detail.
Yeah, and I guess on that, when I send the following reporting email, guys, I will put the link to those tutorials that Tim's talking about in case you don't know where to find those. So I'll take that. Second question, Tim, is there a way to look for certain boxes by department? So if there is a Kathy Stevens in 5 different departments for accounting, can you narrow it down to just the department?
Yeah, guys, absolutely. So let me broaden the question a little bit. As I mentioned up front, I really reduced the typical presentation here of the fields by which you can search. But since the question came up, let's just quickly look at this. Under admin, really useful link here is for field display. You'll notice it's a drop-down list on the boxes tab, and you're not going to be able to see all of this, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn some of these fields back on so that we can sort of answer this question. Just do the basics for right now. But the broader answer is yes, any combination of fields can be used for searching purposes. Let me go ahead and reset the cache so we see these changes immediately. And so, yeah, slightly more realistic now when I make it back to the boxes tab, rather than just those two fields for searching purposes, I've added the organization field. So I won't take the time to do examples, but I think you'll quickly get it, right? I could do whatever I was doing before here in this description field, and then I could add organization search parameters as well. You should know, however, that the logic between two different fields, there is an implied and between these fields. If you want to use an or between these fields, that would be one of those other edge cases where you'd have to go then to the advanced query to build that or-based logic. Yeah, that's a really good question.
Yeah, we have another on the greater than less than search in the alpha list. What does that do with leading numerical characters?
Yeah, it's a great question, guys. And it's pretty important when your application is set up. If, like, my description field, obviously, I think is an alphanumeric character. So if I were to actually put numbers in here instead of letters, the system would still treat it alphanumerically. So you'd get things like the results that if you sorted, it would be 1, 10, 100, and then 2. It wouldn't truly be in numerical order. To really have a numerical search, if that's what you want, the field must be defined as a numerical field. So be aware of that. If you've got issues there, again, reach out to Marcia. She can get you additional detail about possibly swapping your one data type for the other, but that's a whole nother conversation to have.
Thanks, Tim. Any more questions? Doesn't look like it. Oh, we do have one. How do you identify, how do you identify contain instead of using percentage sign?
The percentage sign is our wildcard. So either you've got to explicitly supply the percentage sign, set the preference so it's implied, or it could be the case, that's about, I was just about to show you this, guys, because I realized I forgot to show you this. You can do the equivalent of a between operator by combining the greater than and the less than. And I didn't show you this example earlier, but if I want to see all boxes, so in some sense, it's using a contain logic, all the boxes where the description is between Butler and Miller, I can do that as a greater than and less than. And then I'm only going to get those boxes alphabetically speaking. You'll notice if I get past the Cathy's again, starts at Connors and ends down there at the last name of Long.
We have one more, Tim. I think we can squeeze it in. What is the difference in no implied wildcards versus auto beginning and ending wildcards?
Yeah, let's do it. The best way to show you that, and you guys can try this on your own. Let's do the example I did earlier. Right now I'm using implied wildcards. So if I search by just Cathy, that's C-A-T-H-Y, I'm going to get a pretty broad spectrum because there's actually, it's going to come back to all the boxes where C-A-T-H-Y appears anywhere in that description field, whether it's at the beginning, whether it's in the middle, whether it's at the end. This brings back every occurrence of Cathy. If I jump back into preferences and I say, hey, you know, I don't, and there are times when you would want no implied wildcards. It is the exception rather than the rule, which is why I set mine up to auto beginning and auto ending. If I come back now and do that same search where there's no implied wildcards, I don't get anything, right? Because there's no boxes where the description equals exactly C-A-T-H-Y. Now, the nice thing about no implied is you can dynamically apply the wildcards if you want to. So if on the fly you want the most flexibility, set it to no implied, because I can wrap my phrase in percentage signs, which is our wildcard, and then I'm back where I started. I'm seeing every occurrence of Kathy, but it's up to you guys what works best for you.
Okay.
That was my little timer saying, hey, you reached the end.
I was wondering what that was. Yeah, we are at the half-hour mark, but we covered all the questions we got today, Tim. So thanks for doing some well, almost said speed dating there on that. That's fabulous. And thanks to everybody for joining today. We hope you enjoyed the session. This was very lively. We love the interaction. Hopefully on the next education session you join, it will be the same thing. Again, as a reminder, we'll send this out as a recording, so be on the lookout for that from me soon. These education sessions are offered twice a month across all of the main Gimmal products: Records, Physical, and Discover. Feel free to join any session, even if you're not utilizing a certain product. Our next session is for Tuesday, March 26th at 1 p.m., focusing on the Gimmal Discover product. If you'd like any more information on this topic we talked about today, please email me or drop it at success@gimmal.com. Thanks, everybody. Have a wonderful day.